take this off on this. Will the NFL? What's the probability of the NFL actually canceling their season?
All right, well, based on the probability, there's always a probability, Rashid. There's always going to be a probability because there's the concern, or better said, the fear factor of COVID-19 and what it can have an effect on the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, just to throw this in there real quick, has started playing exhibition games with no one in the stadiums. All right, they popped 2 or 3 games in. They're getting real close to starting their season. Now, that doesn't mean their season's going to continue. Having said that, where the NFL is concerned, the reason why it's big with the NFL is because they have the potential to start their season on time. But there are concerns, and the concerns obviously are players that are catching the COVID-19 virus. Now, there's only a few players on each team, a couple of coaches, but it can definitely grow. They have a nice plan in place to basically keep their players healthy. But let's face it, each team has about 53 men on each team. If you're down to 49 players on each team, 48 players, it's really going to be hard for you to compete. That's where the probability, Rashid, comes in. As the numbers dwindle, can you actually put a football team together, play a brutal game for 17 weeks? Because they added 1 extra week of regular season play now due to the new CBA agreement. Can you play 17 games, 3 or 4 weeks of playoffs, and the Super Bowl, and have a 53-man roster healthy and ready to go? The probability of that is probably going to be a little bit less than 100% at this point. So based off that, yeah, the NFL will have a hard time starting if this continues.
All right, now touching to the Ivy League there. I didn't get a chance to even read that. I read a little bit about it, but the Ivy League, they actually canceled their upcoming season.
Yes, they have. They each see with the Ivy League, and I'll explain. The article basically says the Ivy League and themselves have decided they're going to not compete whatsoever. We're talking about football, basketball, every major sport that they participate in. Now, each in college, especially in the college football level, each conference basically has their own set of rules. You have the Southeast Conference, which is the SEC. You have the ACC. And, some of these major schools have decided that they will compete, but they will compete amongst their conference. They will not travel out of the conference because we're having problems within the United States. We know Arizona's been hit hard with the COVID again. Texas has been hit hard with the COVID. Okay, state of Washington with Seattle loss has been hit hard. These cities have major university competition. In Texas, you got TCU, you got Texas A&M, you got Texas Christian, Texas Tech. I mean, the list goes on. These are major schools that compete. And what the Ivy League is doing is they're basically stepping ahead of the game, and they're canceling altogether to keep their players, their students healthy.
There you go.
All right? And that's what they're doing. So in regards to that, I actually agree with what the Ivy League has done. The Ivy League has basically made that decision 2 months ago. This article is coming out now, but they made this decision 2 months ago because they were in fear of this thing spreading. The other major conferences, the ACC, the SEC, the WAC, all these major conferences all around the United States have decided they're going to compete within their conference, which means less traveling and finding 2 or maybe 3 major points of interest to play their games within a 15 to 45, maybe 100-mile radius. I don't know how they're going to basically, accomplish this, but that's what they're trying to do. Why? Because these schools, hear this out, guys, these schools are very dependent on college football. College football is what makes a lot of these universities very rich.
Now, and the NBA actually lost its $1 billion over this. Kenneth, your take.
Okay. I believe that the NFL will cancel their season only because of the money that they have already, the monies that the owners have already paid out for these football players. You're not going to have your star players who you spent all this money on be taken out by a virus or a cold. I believe that they're going to assess it, and then all of the owners are going to say, hey, look, this season is a wrap. This season is a wrap. Because if you have a quarterback that you spent a lot of money on, or you have a quarterback that's really doing good, and he
Talking
catches a
about Pat
couple
Mahomes.
hits.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I believe they're going to try a good start, but they're going to say, no, we can't afford the risk. We can't afford the risk. So
Well,
I think
that's
that's going to be it.
Yeah, that's the thing, Kenny. That's the thing that's going on right now. That's another aspect of what's going on. From what I've heard, that it's a real concern, obviously, with the players. And yes, the NFL, the owners are really into this. They put everything they have into this. Now, the player you're mentioning is Pat Mahomes, who signed a $503 million contract for 10 years.
Right.
All right. Okay. Now you have to understand the way the salary cap is made up in the NFL is a little different than it is in the NBA. The salary cap is made per year. They gave this man 10 years. He only counts $50 million against the cap, which means they just paid a defensive player $84 million.
Yes.
So apparently
and
they have.
will the insurance companies actually cover this?
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
For COVID-19, that they actually do play.
Well, they put.
Will they guarantee that contract?
Oh yeah, they guarantee the contract. Absolutely.
No, I
That's
mean
a
the
fact.
insurance companies. I remember Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah.
He had 2 bad knees, and insurance companies wouldn't, cover his contract had he blew his knee out.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
that's the thing though, because we're not. First and foremost, whatever the CBA has agreed with the NFL and the NFL owners, we don't have the language on that. But let me rest assure you on this one, they have a plan in place to cover themselves. You're not going to give, like Kenneth said, he was the hammer on top of the nail on this one. You're not going to give this man all this money. If there's no kind of investment going on this, you got to make sure you're covered. Now, the owners put this onus on there to make sure that this season has a chance to go. Kenneth also mentioned that if this doesn't happen, there's a good chance they're going to pull out. Right now, I would say the NFL is at a 90% chance of starting their season on time. 90%, that's good. That's very good. But are they going to finish the whole?
Wow, that's strong, man.
It's very strong because.
Let me ask you a question. If they're 90% ready to get this thing started, and football is a contact sport,
correct.
These people are going to be breathing on each other, and there's not going to be any masks because, according to Rashid, if you wear a mask, you can die because you're getting all this carbon in your system. So how are they going to actually play this game to hit each other with masks on? I mean, you'll have a whole.
Yeah, you're not supposed to exercise with the mask on. I mean, I've seen people playing basketball with the mask on.
Yeah, you're killing yourself. You're killing yourself on
people, I'm like, dude, you're not supposed to play with you're not supposed to exercise.
But
it's bad enough without exercise, you're not getting oxygen.
Well, this is why the gyms are not open. This is why the gyms are not opening, because this is the problem that we're having is why gyms are not opening, because this is the same fear factor that everyone in every sport has. Basketball and football in particular, because in basketball you're rubbing against each other, you're sweaty, you're breathing hard, you're indoors. You're playing your games indoors. The NFL is playing their games outdoors. For the most part, most of the outside arenas are outdoors. They are indoor arenas, but they're climate controlled, just like the NBA is. But listen, Kenny, I mean, the bottom line is, yes, they're going to be on top of one another. Remember what I said 5 minutes ago, rewind if you must. If the numbers start dwindling per team, per available player, them owners are going to go out and reach out to the NFL. They're going to reach out to the commissioner. They're going to talk amongst themselves. They're going to have a private meeting, an emergency meeting, probably somewhere in Florida. They shouldn't go to Florida, by the way, but that's where they always have their meetings. And they're going to say, listen, I'm losing 5 or 6 players. And the other guy's going to say, well, wait, I'm losing 7. So now, where are we going to find the other players to replace them? You can go in the Canadian Football League, but guess what? Those Canadian players, they can't cross the border. They can't come over here. More than we can't go over there. The Toronto Raptors may not play their games in Toronto. The Toronto Blue Jays baseball team may not play their games in Toronto. In fact, they were told not to come over there. So the Raptors and the Blue Jays, who represent Toronto, will have to play their home games somewhere in the United States. I'm only saying this because it's going to get to a point where everybody's going to get desperate. Where can we find players to replace the players we may lose?
Now,
and if it dwindles on every team. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, what about the point of the players saying they refuse to play for fear of catching the coronavirus?
We had that. We actually had that in the NBA. I mean, A.V. Bradley, you know, I don't know how he actually saves face in a sense, though. Coming back to the Lakers next year, I was listening to a couple of analysts, and they disagree with A.B. Bradley actually bowing out. You know, because you have a chance to win a championship this year, and you know he dropped out.
No, that's a choice. And I guess this is what Keith is asking: what are the NFL players going to do? What is their decision? You know what I mean? See, listen, again, you're paying these guys an X amount of money to play. Okay?
Yep.
Look at what we do for a living. We are taking a risk every single day, but we're getting paid to do something, and we're doing it. So you have to make an individual choice. Am I going to play, or am I going to bow out? Now, I could bow out, but guess what? I still expect to get paid because I got a guaranteed contract. Can't work that way. But unfortunately, that's the way it is because it was agreed upon through the CBA, through their contract, that in certain cases, considering alleged pandemic, they didn't have that in it, but they have it now because this is what's happening now. Contracts 2-3 years ago didn't have a pandemic clause in there because we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yep.
Right? The players right now who just signed contracts now, yes, they have a pandemic clause in there. And that clause gives them the right to walk away if they so choose to.
Okay,
Wow. So
you're
that's
an owner.
And fear is the actual dangerous thing, man. I mean, once the media is actually complicit in this, like they just been like scaring the bejesus out of people, giving inaccurate information, and abusing the freedom of press freedoms that we actually have in this country here, man. Because you know, I have my own opinion, and this for the audience. I do apologize that we keep harping on the COVID, but I'm not going to be like these analysts over here that you see on ESPN, or Fox, and actually, oh yes, the season's definitely going to start. And just ignore the giant elephant in the room now. You know, this COVID is actually changing the way our whole country dynamics are actually working right now. So. We got to touch on this. I'm not gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna keep harping on this.
Well, I mean, let's look at one person. If we was going to look at one person, because you mentioned there's some information not correct. Dr. Fauci said that the coronavirus was not a threat. He said people should not shake hands. March 8th of this year, Fauci said Americans don't need to wear masks. He said that the masks were needed for the nurses. Dr. Fauci has never looked at the economic ramifications of shutting down the country because he has.
Yeah, listen, he's actually saying that the government should be much more forceful in enforcing the mask policy.
Yeah, but guys, let's not forget, Fauci's an expert on viruses. Okay, this is why he was brought in. He's an expert on viruses.
And let me just say, all the experts are white. But go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Okay, but yeah, this man was brought in because of his alleged expertise in the Department of Viruses. And you're taking his expert opinion on the viruses. So in the beginning, yeah, don't shake hands and wash your hands and keep some distance. Well, that's kind of common logic when you know something's going on. Now you say, don't wear the mask.
Listen, his models, he said 2.5 million people is going to die. When that didn't happen, and when it was 80,000 so-called deaths, alleged deaths, he said, 80,000 people is too much. That's too much. We got to keep the country closed. We got to keep the country shut down. I mean, he's all over the map.
That's not going to work. He's all over the map. Right, but there you go. This is a man who's an expert in viruses. Yeah, he's jumping all over the place.
People get jobs. You're gonna start to see suicides go up at and there's some people that
crime is going up.
Yeah, crime. How can I forget that? Yeah, crime. Yeah. That's even we live in New York City. It's up 300%, and a lot of it is that people probably some people they're taking advantage of the whole fund the police thing. But
they're desperate. They're angry.
Let me just say. Look, I'm sorry. I just gotta say this. Dr. Fauci is a grandstander. He is a public relations man. He is the P.T. Barnum of the COVID-19 virus. He should be back in the laboratory where he belongs.
I've been saying that for 2 months. Why is he doing 8 to 10 interviews a day? Why is he not in the laboratory? People tell me, oh, they have other scientists. I'm like, this is a new disease, right? So why he's not in the laboratory figuring this thing out? Why is he doing interviews? 8 to 10 interviews a day. And listen,
what do you want to know?
The NFL and the NBA is actually listening to this guy here. You know, Berg, they're listening to him. And
they listen to him because he's the expert. He is the expert. That's why you listen to him. He's the guy that knows. He's in the know. But you're bouncing all over the place, giving out figures that are astronomical, that are absurd. You can't say, oh yeah, 250 million guys are going to press away. I mean, you can't do that and expect
2.5 million. 2.5 million.
Okay, all right, 2.5 million. Really? Can you explain why we reached this point? No, you cannot. But you came up with this number.
No, you can actually listen. If the virus was that lethal, right? Let's say if they had Ebola, like a 92.3% kill rate. Yeah, that's possible. 2.5 million deaths, because we have a lot of people with a lot of drug addicts. You know, those are the first ones to actually go in a sense, because they have, compromised immune systems in a sense, though. So they're vitamin D3 deficient, vitamin C deficient. Well, not vitamin D. They're always outside, so they're getting their vitamin D3. But this virus hasn't taken them out. You know, they're saying that the homeless are spreading it, but then we had 100,000 something deaths, and the homeless aren't dying from this.
Listen, I was just listening to the news early this morning, and a gentleman basically just retired from a job, and I think the job involved landscaping. Anyway, he basically vacationed. I think it was in the Bahamas. He invited 10 other family members. Would you realize the man died the next day? They said it was due to COVID-19, and the rest of his family was officially infected. Now, how does that happen? When you arrive there and
something weird is going on. A lot of things aren't adding up, man. Like 2 plus 2
that's weird.
People in like 30 here, man. It's intense.
Yeah, that's. But how does a man go there perfectly healthy, and all of a sudden the next day or two he's dead, and the rest of his family is fully infected? But they say he died due to the COVID-19. Okay.
And we know that these viruses can't really survive in temperatures over 76 degrees. So how is it that in these warm temperatures that people are catching it and so-called people are dying? What's going on?
Well, obviously the numbers are not accurate.
Fact. He kills these viruses, man. Now there was word in the conspiracy world that the Chinese were cooking it up a second coronavirus strain in Africa to make it much more resistant to heat. But that's that's in the conspiracy world there.
Of course. Of course.
I have spoken to Americans, okay? Black Americans, I've spoken to white Americans and non-white Americans. And I can tell you point blank, America cannot afford to stay closed. Americans have lost their businesses. Americans have lost their retirement funds. Their funds are nearly depleted. Enough is enough. Open up the country now, put Americans back to work, or we will be in a third world country really
Absolutely.
quick.
I agree 100%, Keith. I agree 100%. And you're controlling the narrative. I can't even call this a narrative anymore. And those are controlling this world right now. And of course, you listen to Fauci. The president now should be firing him. He hasn't done it yet. But you're right. We need to open up the economy.
They sidelined him. He's not taking any advice from him. He got drilled pretty hard.
That's not the same. It's not the same thing. Okay, the man
I've been saying that for 2 weeks. He needs to fire Fauci, and he needs to be discredited as a quack. And that's exactly what he is.
That's it. And that's kind of where we are. And now, I mean, now going back to what we're discussing in regards to this, yeah, there's a big fear factor. There's a fear factor across the board. There's a fear factor in the sports world. There's a fear factor in life itself. You know, people are very concerned. I mean, we have people in our profession.
I'm giving, nobody wants to actually, people want to actually be poor. They, like the teachers, we scared to go back to work. I said, well, do you want robots replacing you and you'll be poor?
They're not thinking that far ahead. They're not thinking that far ahead. You know,
but they're scared, though. They're scared. I mean, actually,
and that's what fear is all about.
The teachers unions filed a lawsuit against Florida. Yeah, it was I forgot what city in Florida it was. They filed a lawsuit due to the COVID thing because they want to open the schools come September, but no kids died. No teenagers, no teenagers or kids actually died from this. There was one 18-year-old, like Trump said, he had diabetes, and kids do die. There's a lot of kids in this country that has pre-existing conditions. You know, not every kid is super duper healthy there, man.
No, you have kids who suffer from a lot of different things. Right? It's not even about the immune system. You got kids who suffer from autism. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think, especially, we can get into the school system, but that's a whole different animal.
Yeah, it's a whole different topic, though. But it's people are fearful, and the NBA players and the NFL players, people actually forget that they're actually human too, and a lot of them,
and they got families.
They have families, yes, they do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But at the end of the day, the average sports fan don't even want to hear that. The average sports fan says, I need sports to get me away from, get my mind off of what's going on. And it, it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And I don't know if that's going to work out well for us. This is not going to be the greatest year in sports. I don't think we're going to see much of anything. And if we do, it's not going to be a great product. So
I think your probability from 90% down to maybe like 50-50 with the NFL then?
Come see me in a week or two. Let's see how this thing goes. We got a few players on each team having an issue. Like I said, I don't want to beat this drum, but if the numbers increase per team, then we may have a problem.
Trump is actually talking about immunity in the next relief bill, so that's one of the problems right there is that you have lawyers threatening companies to sue them if somebody contracts the virus, like Kenny McKenna was actually alluding to earlier. If there's going to be lawsuits here, so that's what the NFL is looking out for. Now you've seen the NFL with the head injuries, but the head injuries see, that's the thing. They've already taken care of that by reconstructing the helmets. All right, they addressed those issues. These issues now involving the money in the NFL, you're still giving out contracts. You're still signing players, guys. All right? And I trust these owners, being that they are the owners, and listen, these guys, these are guys who are rich in other areas. They have other businesses going on outside the NFL, which adds on to their ability to financially be able to run a team. But they got to put their money. You can't have $1 billion sitting in a bank account. So. But they've invested
it, Rashid. But they've invested that money. They've invested that money into these players, and they're still signing players to contract. They're still signing the rookies. The rookies just got drafted. They had an NFL draft in April. They went through with that because they knew when these players got drafted, they had to pay them too. So these owners know what they're doing with this money, and they're doing it because they know there's going to be an NFL season. Again, I want to reiterate. I think there'll be a season. What I also reiterate is I don't know if the season will continue all the way through. We have 17 football games now. One extra regular season game than normal. All right? Back in the 70s, they had played 14 regular season games. In the 80s and 90s, they went to 16. Now, in this time, they went to 17. Why? Because they want to generate more money. Can they make it 17 games when each player on each team starts having the COVID virus? That is where the issue is. If they know they cannot afford to put their money where their mouth is, then we would definitely not see NFL seasons come the opening day, first week of September. We will see NFL day, opening day in September. Why? Because they know there's going to be an NFL season. Mike, again, we're going to have an entire football season. That's where I say the percentages will start going. I'm sorry, Kenny, you going to say something?
I have the honor of speaking to an economist. I asked him about this whole COVID and the economics, sports, and I went down the whole game thing. And he brought it down to this synopsis. I don't agree with it, but this is what he said. He said this: as long as rich people are not spending money, workers will continue to suffer. It goes down the line. Low-income workers are in for a period of economic turbulence. They will get unemployment insurance, which will expire if the federal government doesn't pass some type of bill.
A bill,
Okay?
yeah.
He said
Yeah, I
that
think they extended it to December 26th, something like that.
They extended it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
economically, states reopening did not boost the economy.
No.
So right where we are right now, the country known or the corporation known as America is in trouble. And if they don't do something, not only will we not have NBA, NFL, MLB, soccer, all of this will be affected. So we need to get the country open, but we have to do it smart and wise. Say what you want about Governor Cuomo, but he did the smart thing with his state, and now we are basically over the curve, around the curve, while other states are going up their high death mountain. Mean, you know, again.
Well, in Florida, there was an article. I think I shared it on your page or one of the Facebook pages that they're counting every single death as a COVID death. So, car accident, motorcycle accident. There's people dying every single day in this country, and then they'll test them for COVID. And again, the test actually tests for the brightest or genetic material of a cold virus or flu virus, and if you had that in the past 10 years, the test comes up positive. So, but they instead of saying the motorcycle accident killed the person, they mark that they say, oh well, he died of COVID.
When this COVID thing first started, they broke it down by race, and then the report said there was an overwhelmingly bunch of African Americans, non-white people dying. This time around, there's no mention of race. There's no mention of race whatsoever. And the reason why, I said it once, I'll say it again, this is genocide upon non-white people. If you were to put the numbers out there of how many non-white people have died pertaining to COVID, this would be an uproar in this country. There would be a revolution. Okay? They are not mentioning, they're saying this one died and that one died, but they no longer are breaking it down by race, because they've already put the narrative out there that because of underlying conditions, our people are dying.
Well, listen, Kenneth, that's with the flu effects, man. I mean, if you have underlying conditions,
we have had flu,
2 or 3 of them, a flu can actually take you out.
We have had flu. We have had a lot of diseases. Nothing has taken us out like this disease.
No, that's not true, Kenneth. I categorically disagree with you. Heart disease takes us out. Heart disease takes us out. Cancer takes us out.
Well, listen, I think closest to TB back, I forget what year, so excuse me, guys, I don't have to paraphrase the years, but tuberculosis was a really big thing.
Yeah,
had no cure for it.
50,000 people a year.
It still is, but you have some cures for it. But you didn't have it back in the day where it was wiping people out then. TB was wiping people out then.
It kills 50,000 people a year here still currently. They have a drug-resistant TB now that kills 50,000 people a year.
Okay, but
but you go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry.
Can you explain to me, Mr. Rashid, can you explain to me why the first time around they broke it down by race and then they had this report, but the second time around they're not breaking it down by race, they're just saying deaths?
Yeah.
Well, listen, we know between all 3 of us, we know why people were dying of the COVID, and they're not using those procedures anymore. That's why you're not hearing about deaths anymore.
Well,
Okay.
ventilators is a big thing, but now we have other issues now, don't we?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. And
Besides,
Kenneth, you did your research on the ventilators, like I told you, right?
Yes, I did, sir.
All right.
yeah,
So now you're
I
not
mean, that was
hearing about
big.
that in New York because
Yeah.
they, a lot of these blue states were using ventilators, and you heard Cuomo, I need millions. Well,
But you didn't use all of them anyway. But go ahead.
that's how many people they wanted to put on ventilators, man. You have some type of anxiety issue, which can mimic a COVID attack, and then they put you on a ventilator.
Let me ask you guys something. Do you guys remember the movie Outbreak
Yes.
with Dustin Hoffman?
I didn't see. I think I maybe saw it.
Right? About the monkey, right?
About the monkey, right? The monkey was the source of the virus, right? This virus was out of control, Rashid. It was so far out of control. I would say it's worse than what we're seeing now.
Yes.
I forget how they nailed it down, so forgive me on that, but I do remember how it started. And I remember there was a scene in that film that stuck out to me worse than anything. It was the movie theater scene. Do you remember that, Keith? Where someone in the movie theater sneezed, and they showed how it spread throughout the theater.
Yes.
And those people were infected within hours. Now, can we say, is that happening with us now with COVID-19? And the answer is no, it's not happening that way. Think about it, it's not happening that way.
Listen, if you half the people that die from this, half of them were in nursing homes. The other half, the ventilators actually did its work. So when you look at it, it's a 0.6% kill rate. Now you look at Ebola, the flu has a 2.3% kill rate. It kills about maybe between 80,000 to in a bad flu year, 100,000 people every single year. Ebola has a 92.3% kill rate. When people were coming back here with Ebola, we didn't shut the country down. We don't shut the country down for flu. We don't shut the country down for drug-resistant TB.
They're doing it now because, unfortunately, it's a control they're trying to have, guys. It's a control that they're trying to have.
Yeah,
they're trying to control. They're trying to
political reasons. I think it's quite well. I don't want to say it's quite obvious, but I see it. I never fell for this from the very beginning.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, y'all guys know my fault. No, Kenneth wasn't. He didn't know me at the time, but Barrick, I didn't believe the kill rate. I said it was going to be about maybe 50 to 100,000 people that die, not 2.5 million, like Fauci said.
No, and obviously he was incorrect. And I mean, even if he had gave that number beforehand when this thing started, I would think he was out of his mind because you're talking about at least 1/4, maybe 2/4 of the world, maybe probably. I mean, all not the world, but we're talking about it within the state of New York, Philly, or Pennsylvania, or Virginia, and the more eastern side of the north side of the United States probably suffering bad. It didn't happen that way, right? So now all of a sudden we have the southern states, the western states, suffering once again due to COVID-19. And I can tell you right now, everything that's happening is inaccurate. All right, I can tell you right now, a gentleman told me today, and I want you guys to listen to this. A gentleman told me today that I could be suffering from it, and I could be on my way to the hospital. And then what if I black out and cause an accident? Are they going to consider that COVID related? Are they going to say I died because of COVID, or is COVID related? I said it's COVID related, but you didn't die because of COVID.
Well,
And that's where our problem.
In transit, where they are now saying those individuals who died of COVID have to prove that they died.
You're not going to be able. You're not going to. And I told people that you're not going to be able to prove that you contracted it from your job. You're not going to be able to do it.
So if you can't prove it, that means that the insurance companies don't pay out that money. That means you're just dead. That's not right.
Well, you're not going to be able to prove that you contracted it from work. You're not any job, not just any job. You're not going to be able to prove that you're not going to be able to definitively say in theory. In theory, I may have caught it from work, but theory doesn't work in court.
The governor said you must go to work. You said, I'm scared, but you want to keep your job. What made you go to work? It was the governor. He made you go to work and work in these
But
conditions.
Kenneth, listen, if you're unemployed and poor, listen, you're gonna be malnourished, and the COVID
Guys,
will
hold on,
definitely kill
hold
you.
on. But everybody's situation is different. We're stepping over the logic. Everyone's situation is different. And there's people at home that are able to stay home for a long period of time because their financial situation is good versus the next person who's not. So we don't know who's going through what. I mean, it could be someone who just got over COVID, but they got money in their pocket. We don't know.